Hi there.
And welcome. Hi, it's the Design Freaks podcast. My name's Clarita. I'm the host. I'm a graphic designer. I like to talk about album cover design, stories behind the record sleeves. This is episode 78, the Ege Bamyasi episode. It's a mini episode. These are called Design Freaks Covers a Cover, where I pick one album cover and I try to find out as much about the artwork as possible. What went on behind the scenes, who was the art director and or designer, as much as I can. Then I make a little video and I give it to you for free. Aw. This time I'm covering Ege Bamyasi by the beloved krautrock band, founded in 1968, Can. We just lost another member of Can, the amazing Damo Suzuki, who is 74 years old. And born in Japan, he was one of their vocalists and was really unique and just an artist through and through, and worked pretty close to the end of his life. So just inspiring and such a cool, unique voice, amazing legacy. Check out this beautiful, amazing documentary called Energy, a documentary about Damo Suzuki. It's directed by Michelle Heighway. And I had been following her efforts the past few years on Instagram to get this documentary made. Completely forgot about it. And then after he passed, of course, had to go and rent it. It's like $8 to rent. It's awesome to hear him speak in his own words and describe his own situation and his own experiences. You see some of what he went through with cancer. You get to see his weird art, which I wasn't familiar with. Fascinating. And of course, all the footage as well. So there's links in the show notes. There's a trailer you can watch. You can rent it on Vimeo like I did. If you want to own it, I know there was a limited run of DVDs. I'm not sure if those are still available, but there's links galore. So check that out and show support for that film. It's incredible and so appreciated. Thank you to Michelle, and thank you, Damo. Yeah, that's why I picked this cover. Also, it's such a ubiquitous cover, even if you don't know the band Can. I feel like people have seen this, and it's like, what's the deal with the okra? So I'm going to talk about that. But first, if you enjoy the show, please share with other vinyl and design freaks. Leave a 5-star iTunes review, like, review, subscribe, and all that. I am on YouTube, so you can watch the show. I try to put up as many graphics as I can as possible. But if you like to do audio only, I do have an Instagram where I post the artwork as well. I'm at _Design Freaks Podcast, and the website is designfreakspodcast.com. As usual, for more music related podcasts, check out ruinousmedia.com. I want to do, before I get into Ege Bamyasi, I wanted to do a little thank you corner, a little thank you segment. I guess that's the right word. I don't really do segments, but a couple of labels have sent me some really cool things, and I so appreciate it. First of all, I want to say thank you to Secret Records. They're at secretrecordsmusic.com, and I'll have links in the show notes. But they are a small label in Madison, Wisconsin, run by Vincent Presley of Zebras and Those Poor Bastards. And these are limited edition vinyl and cassettes. They do like reissues of Ralph records. Some of these are like my favorite bands of all time, and these beautiful colored vinyl. I love Snakefinger. I got like a chrome flexi disc. X-Girl. I love the cover. And then Pink Splatter. Thank you, Secret Records. I also want to say thank you to Extinction Burst. This is a heavier label. Some really cool design. Extinction Burst is a label out of Victorville, California. They also have a link tree, blah, blah, blah. They sent me a bunch of stuff. Thank you so much. I'm still working my way through it. And then I've been listening to this band all day today, Holy Caravan. I love the packaging for this, their logo. Thank you, friends. So let's talk about
Ege Bamyasi.
For this episode, I referenced this book for the can segments of it. It's called Krautrock, Cosmic Rock and Its Legacy. Great book. Highly recommend. Lots of great photography and stories. This record came out in 1972. I will talk about the name, the meaning of it, and why they chose it, or the two different stories of why they chose it. But first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the basics. Who is Can? So Can was a German experimental rock band. Reading straight from Wikipedia. Wikipedia is good for some things. So they came out of Cologne, Germany in 1968, and they were known as experimental rock because krautrock hadn't really been named that yet. They were formed in Cologne by Holger Chukai, which I've been pronouncing wrong this entire time. And then Ermin Schmidt, Michael Caroli, Jackie Liebezeit. The group featured several vocalists, including American. When I read that, I was like, what? That was a surprise. He was technically born in New York, but he was German. He lived in Germany. So kind of American Malcolm Mooney, and then Japanese Damo Suzuki from 1970 to 1973. They've been hailed as the pioneers of krautrock. So what's krautrock? It's not a slur. It's an actual music genre. It emerged in the late 1960s, mainly represented by groups from West Germany, although later other groups kind of fit into that category too. Like I would say Silver Apples were like New York krautrock. They were related to experimental underground psychedelic, prog rocky kind of, sort of loosely adjacent to prog rock, electronic. It goes on and on. There were a lot of influences, and it was reacting to a lot of things. There was definitely psychedelia and psychedelic drugs. Why was it named Ege Bamyasi, and what the heck does that mean? So the cover artwork, and I'm going to have all my sources in the show notes as I do. It's hard not to jump around with the stories behind this cover. I'm just going to do the best I can. So the album cover shows a photograph of a can of Ege Bamyasi, which is Turkish for Aegean Okra, as in the Aegean Sea, Aegean Islands. In the August 2006 uncut, now this blurb I'm reading, it's a quote of a band member. In a 2006 uncut interview with Stubbs, Schmidt explained, the can on the cover is not a silly concept idea. It was a can that Jackie had found in a Turkish shop. There, the word can means something like life. There's no concept behind titles like Vitamin C and I'm So Green, but certainly we were very organic in our sound by now. I don't know if he's trying to make a joke, like okra, organic. I don't know. But yes, in Turkish, the word can equals life. So that was like the name of the brand. And then Ege Bamyasi, Aegean Okra. And then the German translation right underneath, it's Okraschoten. It's so cute. And that literally translates to okra pods. So that's the story from Wikipedia, that they found the physical can, which is what I always assumed, that they either found a can of okra and somehow, put their name, had graphics done to put their name on the can, or they just found the can as is, and then photographed it and created a cover this way. So there is a conflicting story in that book, Krautrock, Cosmic Rock, and Its Legacy, that they had seen the name scrawled on a menu. I'll get into that more in a little bit. I want to read the credits here. The artwork and design for the original cover, I'm not going to talk about I believe it was a 2004 reissue, but the original design, Ingo Trauer and Richard J. Rudow. Ingo Trauer is a German designer and art director and printer. He has 10 visual album credits on Discogs, and that's what I use for the show. I know sometimes not everything is included there, but it's usually a good source. There's 10 records, 2 Can records, Ege Bamyasi and Future Days, and then two Popolva albums, Amandul 2, Wolf City, and a few other things. And of those 10, Richard J. Rudow was credited also with 6 of those. So it looks to me like they work together. Oh, also for the Can box set. Um, Looks like they work together. And I'm assuming that Ingo then is the art director, Richard is the designer. That's usually how that relationship works. I found a couple of articles on wessercourier.de, which is the German.com. And I'm going to pronounce it Wesser. I looked up the pronunciation and each one was different. Some of them were like Visor and some were Weezer. I don't know. Wesser is also the name of a river that kind of goes through Bremen, the city where Ingo lives. This article said that this trained printer has lived in Bremen since 1959. He's the inventor of the legendary Beat Club logo. I'll talk a little bit more about Beat Club in a second. And he also created the music store sign. I don't know what that means, and I refuse to look it up. As an art director at United Artists, he designed various album covers for various krautrock bands such as Can, Amandul, and Popova, and then worked for the music label RCA in Hamburg. Until 2006, he ran a printing company and a publishing house on Friesenstrasse, and for many years, he was also chairman of the Bremen Cycling Association. So it took me a while to figure it out, but Ingo Trauer did pass away in November of 2022. There's a couple of reasons why it was hard for me to figure it out. First of all, the obituary notices are all in German, and for some reason, these are not live text. So these are images. They're like these digital cards that are created. And so because they're images, Google cannot scan the text and translate them into English. So, but obviously upon further notice, I did realize, oh, these have a birth and a death date on them. So Ingo was born in 1940 and did pass away November of 2022. So fairly recently. Rest in peace, Ingo Trauer. And there's a place on the Wesser Courier website where you can go light a virtual candle for Ingo. I went there and did that, and you can read the other dedications there as well. Another reason it was a little confusing is that his name, Trauer, literally translates to the word mourning, Mourning in English. So I was used to reading these articles where he was being referred to as Ingo Mourning. And then also in some contexts, it was translated to the word grief. So kind of a weird coincidence there. So anyway, that made it also a little bit confusing. But yeah, the articles that I'm referencing were written by the Wesser Courier before he passed. So they're referencing him in present tense. But yeah, he is no longer alive, it seems, but he lived a very long life. Can you imagine 1940 to 2022? What a ride. Seems very cool. He keeps everything he's made and worked on. Kind of sounds like he's a little bit of a pack rat, which is awesome because I love when people keep ephemera and things like that. It's really cool. So let me go back through that, what I just read, and kind of explain. So the Beat Club was kind of like the Old Grey Whistle Test. It was a German show, and every band that was cool performed on this show. It was also, if you've noticed the tributes to Damo Suzuki that have been going around social media, a lot of people have been posting their performance from the Beat Club. It's very memorable. I think they do Paper House in 1971. So this is before Ege Bamyasi came out. This was from the Tago Mago era. And if you look at the list of bands that performed on Beat Club, it's insane. It's like everyone. Alice Cooper, Amon Dole. I'm just going down alphabetically. Everyone, Beach Boys, Bee Gees, Black Sabbath, Blue Cheer, Can, Captain Beefheart, Chicago, Chuck Berry, David Bowie, Deep Purple, The Doors, The Equals. I mean, yeah, I'll have a link to that as well in the old show notes. So he developed that logo, and it looks like it was kind of a play on the underground sign for the subway or whatever they call it in Germany. Then this other article on him was all about when he took a trip to Woodstock, when he went to the United States in 1969 and hitchhiked, had a grand old time, and he kept his headband that he got there. They had like Woodstock merch. But yeah, it says Woodstock with love. It's a teal headband, and in orange letters, it says Woodstock with love in this really cute font. So thank you, Ingo, for keeping everything. Sure, your house is very cluttered, but I appreciate it. So yeah, that was about 50 years ago. He also, when people say he likes to keep things, he says he preserves it. He makes that distinction. The writer for this article says his house in the eastern suburbs is like a cabinet of curiosities. In almost all rooms, the bulging shelves rise to the ceiling, stacked with books, magazines, records, and other relics that Trauer has collected. Preserved over the course of his life. On every free wall, there are pictures or metal signs that remind us of long forgotten times. Visitors are quickly tempted to lose themselves in the treasures to be discovered here. Visitors, I want to go. For Ingo Trauer, this is everyday life. And he says, quote, "My whole life is a series of beautiful experiences." He preserves it like the treasures in his apartment. Woodstock will always be a part of it. That's so sweet. So yeah, that's our art director, and also art directed and designed other beautiful things. I promised I would tell you the other story about naming this record Ege Bamyasi. So this is from the Krautrock book, and it's a blurb that was by Anne Shenton of Add N to X. Very awesome band. Anyway, she admires him, of course, and said this: "The fact that Damo Suzuki was allegedly picked up by the band while busking has always attracted me to the ethics of Can." Very cool. "A street performer became the band's frontman. This says to me that there were not the normal egos in tow, and that Can approached the band set up differently, in a more fluid and inventive way. This attitude was something that me and my band were attempting when we first began performing in the early 1990s. I'm assuming she means Add N to X. "When I recently played as a sound carrier for Suzuki in his never-ending tour, I dusted down my old Moog Rogue and headed off to meet Suzuki and the rest of the temporary band. I was interested in his method of orchestration, or non-method, as the case may be. During our sound check, a young enthusiast wanted to write up a set list and plan the performance in greater depth, but Suzuki was totally against that. We had to communicate in real time as we were playing with no pre-planning." That's probably terrifying for musicians, right? "In his experience, the pre-planned stuff never works as well as the impromptu playing, and anyway, our time could be better spent nipping to the Japanese cafe and sampling the sake. Just promise me no rules, okay?" During the performance, a simple nod, a flick of his mane, or a drum roll would signify a change of pace. We would react on the fly like starlings in the evening sky, changing directions in a cinch. Then he was off to the next gig in Paris. He's a real modern day nomad singing for his supper. Okay, so this is the part where it gets a little bit confusing to me, because I thought it was based on this Turkish can of okra. But here we go. The words Ege Bamyasi, so Suzuki told me, was something Can saw scrawled on the menu in a Turkish cafe. It made no sense to them at the time, and it doesn't mean anything to me either, but it sounds good. A great ready-made album title in true Dadaist style. And then she goes on to say that it kind of it's fitting for his singing in different languages, Japanese, German, or English. Words don't always mean anything or make sense, which is part of his legacy. There was a little bit of Cocteau twinsing going on. But I think if that's true, if he really said that, it could have been that they did both. They saw it on a menu, they saw it on a can, they kept seeing it. Maybe I don't know. If you know more, please chime in. Yeah. So I just thought I would include both of those stories. Either way, it's a very cool cover. It's so striking. It's so memorable. I think food on record covers is always a great idea. You know, it's there's also other packaging I'll put up on the screen and we'll be posting. One of the greatest krautrock bands, possibly. If you're not familiar, you got a lot of listening to do. And then there's like the Sacrilege covers album. There's, that box set. There's the Lost Tapes, which that's an excellent. I don't know if that would be a good intro, but it's definitely a very cool extension of their catalog. So anyway, thank you for joining me, coming on this very short mini episode journey of celebrating Damo and this very mysterious and cool album cover. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.